What I'm saying to black men is that you guys have these platforms. You have the power to decide who gets airtime. Yet too often you give that power away for clicks, views, and money. And that's a problem. That's self-deprecating. You bring a woman to cuss you out in your face just because it draws engagement. That's crazy to me. Then we have another issue in our own male-centric spaces. Men will agree on 90% of the issues, but will take the 10% they disagree with and use it to attack a man who's actually on their side. I've had whole live streams made about one video of mine that somebody didn't like, and it was from somebody that I would consider I agree with the majority of stuff that they say. I noticed that black men, without question, we are the most self-deprecating group of men on the planet. It's sad. It's as if we're ashamed to acknowledge our strengths, yet quick to broadcast our weaknesses. And this problem, y'all, it runs deep, and I've seen it on multiple channels. We live in a black community where, as a whole, too many people are uninformed about how well black men are actually doing. So they get on platforms and spew out outdated, false information, damaging our image just as much as the people who do know the truth but refuse to acknowledge it. So when you see somebody saying something crazy about black men and they don't know the statistics, it's doing just as much damage as the people that just hate us. And then, focusing on black men, we have a large group of black women who openly despise everything about black men. There's no point in debating them. Yet platforms run by black men keep bringing them on because it boosts social media engagement. And I know you guys have seen it. Under these panel shows, people comment, "Why do you keep bringing her on?" And the response is always, "We need differing opinions. Otherwise, it'll just be an echo chamber." Y'all have heard this before? But it's not true. There's a difference between healthy disagreement and giving a microphone to someone who repeatedly spreads false narratives about you, even after you've presented the facts. That's not balance. That's insanity on the behalf of black men, okay? If you bring on a woman who has believed every negative stereotype about black men, and you present her with the truth, she acknowledges it, and you move forward. But if she keeps lying, she doesn't come back. Period, man. That's how it should be. And I remember, and Kevin Samuels actually did a live stream on this, but you guys remember when Tommy Lauren, the young white girl that had her own podcast, Tommy Lauren, when she said something wild about white men, she apologized the very next day.
Here's something that black men can learn. Black people can learn. Why is Tommy Lauren getting drugged? Because she is playing the old game. While you used to could just say anything you want to about men. But this cancel culture, online, men have been getting their voice, and now they're finally pushing back. In under 4 days, this whole story went from what happened then to what we're about to learn now.
Some of the misperceptions and misconceptions about some of the things I said in that video that I want to go through real quick. First and foremost, okay, I don't think all men are trash. And I also want to again
came in and shut this shit down. Tommy Lauren is teaching black women a very valuable lesson. A very valuable lesson. What is that? You cannot just drag men and get away with it.
Because if she didn't, they probably would have canceled her show. You guys remember that? So what I'm saying to black men is that you guys have these platforms. You have the power to decide who gets airtime. Yet too often you give that power away for clicks, views, and money. And that's a problem. That's self-deprecating. You bring a woman to cuss you out in your face just because it draws engagement. That's crazy to me. Then we have another issue in our own male-centric spaces. Men will agree on 90% of the issues, but will take the 10% they disagree with and use it to attack a man who's actually on their side. I've had whole live streams made about one video of mine that, somebody didn't like. And it was from somebody that I would consider, I agree with the majority of stuff that they say. But instead of firing back, I stay stoic. I remove them from my algorithm and I keep it moving. Because trust me, I've heard the false information some of these brothers are spreading. If I started breaking down their content piece by piece, it would hurt their brand, okay? But since I agree on most of what they say, I let it slide. And you guys are probably asking why. Because the more black men that we have who can coexist in these spaces, the better, okay? And let me be clear. Getting along with somebody doesn't mean I have to be in your chat or talk to you offline. It means you address the problems on your side. I'll address the problems, I'll address them from my side. We don't have to like each other, but we should at least, leave each other alone to let you do what you do and I'm gonna do what I do. Okay? But that's not what happens in these spaces. Because at the end of the day, it's not about ego. It's about protecting the black male, image and, the unity of black men. But far too often I see too many people, like I've seen people say, yeah, man, me and man, he's spot on. But this video and the whole live stream with my face plastered on thumbnail, and we damn near have the same views on the majority of stuff. That's self-deprecation. You know what I'm saying? So we have so many enemies in these spaces, and sometimes the enemies come from within. And that's sad. So I'm trying to understand what we're trying to do here as black men. If it's just all for one and one for all, and not the message of you do your thing, I'm gonna do my thing. It's good to have polarity in these spaces. And like I said, we need more black people in these black men in these spaces and just talking and explaining certain things from our point of view. So that's why when you guys send me these clips, I don't do shows on, live streams from, black men's channels, because for one, I don't like the panel shows. And two, if I agree with the majority of stuff that you say, there's no reason for me to be sitting there trying to nitpick at your content. But like I said, man, it's very tough in these spaces. So black men, we have, and I didn't even mention, the outsiders of the black community. I'm simply talking about what I see on a day-to-day basis within the black community. And then we got to go out there and fight the world. It's tough, man. It's very tough, and when you live with a certain, level, certain values, and, being in the military definitely, strengthen that. I have my own code, man. I'm like, bro, I'm not going to do that. It's bad. It's poor taste, for me to be sitting there nitpicking at a black man who I agree with for the majority of the time. I'll just let him cook. But as soon as you take one video or one take that I said and, oh, man, and you using shaming language and stuff as a grown man, from the women, I expect that. It is what it is. But from men, that's wild to me. But yeah, so I'm trying to fix that. Hopefully when I do these videos, you guys will understand where I'm coming from. And I'm not trying to, dig at black men, pause. But I'm just trying to help, man. I'm trying to do what I do. All right. And I think that sometimes us as black men, some of us are definitely scared to place the blame where it should be in regards to children at a wedlock, because you guys know the statistics. I've did a great video out there if you guys want to check that out. It's on my page. But yeah, sometimes we default to self-deprecation, and we have a problem with that. So I told you guys about 4 weeks ago, I found out about ChatGPT. So I linked ChatGPT. I told you I got some friends that are they're very knowledgeable on ChatGPT. They linked ChatGPT to my channel. ChatGPT listed out and outlined all the stuff that I covered And now we're going to the point where I'm readdressing things that need to be discussed in full. And ChatGPT helps me outline those topics that I need to discuss. And the one that's on the docket right now is where Black men can improve. Okay? Because we talked about that in many different live streams, which people, fail to watch for some odd reason, because that's always the response. Oh man, you always, comparing yourselves to Black women. Like, no, we've done, hundreds of live streams discussing Black men against everybody in the world. And you guys know that's how I rank and judge Black men. I hold Black men to a higher standard, and I know it's kind of shaming language when people say that, but it is what it is. But I wanted to put one of these video on demands out there just to make sure that I cover certain areas where Black men need to improve. So this is what I told ChatGPT while I was brainstorming this. I said, I would like to create a speech on where Black men can improve, but I want to be careful because within the Black community, Black men's shortcomings are always being used against them. I want to acknowledge the areas where Black men are doing well, but also acknowledge where we can improve. And ChatGPT responded and said, got it. You want a balanced but protective speech that recognizes Black men's strengths so it doesn't sound like yet another attack piece. You guys are aware of that in these spaces. Acknowledges real areas for improvement without handing ammunition to detractors. They know my content very well, if you guys notice that, right? It said keeps the tone constructive and empowering rather than shaming. So that's what I've been trying to, siphon through and work out on my own, because Lord knows, Black men, we go through so much shit, so much. And I don't want to add to that. However, I know there are certain areas where Black men can improve. And those areas are actually the same areas that every man of every race can improve. When they talk about having more income, owning more businesses, every man in every race has the same goals. Black men are no different. In regards to the prison, the prison rates, we've lowered them. Well, you guys know the statistics. Black men are doing just fine, just like everybody else. We just need to improve in certain areas. And one thing that people tend to forget in the Black community, we only represent 7.5% of the population, the U.S. population. So when you hear people try and use these, crazy arguments, well, Black men, they need to be earning more than, white folks. They need to be owning more businesses than white people, owning more homes. You guys are expecting a lot out of 7.5% of the population. And again, as Black men, we understand we got to be 10 times better. But I don't want to discourage Black men by using those, crazy talking points that people say about Black men and think that we're something different other than outside of the other guys. So you guys know what I'm just explaining this. So if you see a couple of videos out there where I'm discussing where Black men need to improve, just know that I put a lot of thought in this, and I am aware that people who don't like us will watch these videos. But I just want to assure you that where we need to improve are the same places that everybody needs to improve. Okay?